Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are joined now by Dr. Angela M. Reeves. She's the founder and CEO of AMR Educational and Program Consultants, LLC, from Davison, Michigan. Welcome to the show today. How are you?
I am well, Jill. Thank you so much for having me.
Excited to have you. Such energy, such spirit, and she's ready to roll today. And we're excited to learn more about AMR Educational and Program Consultants and how you really empower success. Would you mind just giving us a little overview about some of the services you provide?
Sure. So we train staff and agencies and organizations in success strategies. We are evidence-based. We don't do anything that's not been proven. I'm a researcher at heart. I love to do the research. I love to share the results. And when you find something that works consistently, that's something that people just need to know, I think.
Beautiful.
So that's one of the things that we do.
Yep, I
We
was reading the
also
life
provide,
skills courses, the
yes,
mental health counseling. Go ahead, go ahead.
yes, coaching, yes.
Hmm.
And we have a life skills curriculum that really prepares folks for the 21st century. And we have gotten a lot of really good results from that curriculum. So
Beautiful.
some of the results, just to share with you, the agency that we were working with, and we continue to work with them in Indiana, Reach for Youth, they were given last year, they were given 60 kids in January who were not going to graduate in June.
Mm.
And we developed a streamlined course for them, and 90% of those kids graduated.
Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
Beautiful. How
Mhm.
proud y'all must be. Wow.
We are, but it is, if you know what to do, and it's like making a cake, right?
Yeah,
Know
it
what you're
really
going to put
is.
in, if you want a lemon cake or if you want a chocolate cake.
Oh my goodness.
Some
Well,
form, I think. But
well,
you can't act from knowledge you don't have.
it's true, right?
Right, right, right.
Well, before we get into more details about all the work you do, I want to find out about more about you personally, if you don't mind
No
sharing a little
problem.
bit about where you grew up. And I know you told us a story about when you started the first grade and you read that Orphan Annie comic books. Could you share a little bit about that too?
Well, yeah. And so before I started first grade, my grandmother, let me back it up a little bit. I'm the firstborn girl in two generations of boys. So I was the daughter my grandmother always wanted. All of her boys had sons until me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, she had
Wow.
all boys and they had all boys until me. So I split time between her and my mom in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started school in the first grade, but I had been reading Little Orphan Annie
Oh,
comic books just because I could, right?
yeah.
So starting school, first grade, the teacher hands out this see Dick run, see Jane, all that foolishness, right? It was to me foolishness. I finished it,
Wow.
raised my hand. Okay, I'm done with that. What do you want me to do next?
Wow.
So, when I finished my work, I'm a helper by nature, and I would see somebody else struggling, I would go help them. Okay, of course, I got into lots of trouble for that. Back then, they labeled me a troublemaker.
Yeah.
So that first grade. But at any rate, I really enjoyed learning and sharing knowledge. So what my mom did, just to keep me, from getting into too much trouble, she bought me a series of 10 books, detective novels, and each book had 10 stories. And they were so far ahead because I grew up in the 50s. Okay. And so they were really, really far ahead. And I mentioned this in my information, but one of the stories was about a detective who was trying to figure out what this chemistry guy was doing in his garage. And he came to find out he was making artificial diamonds, and they wanted to shut him down because of the impact on the diamond trade, right?
Mm-hmm.
But no, of course, no surprise. Now we see that and we don't think anything of it.
Uh-uh.
See,
Wow.
very, very forward thinking. So that just really started, getting my wheels turning into the possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And you
So
always
that's
like
kind of
reading and
how,
sharing information, right?
yes, absolutely, absolutely. So I'm a little mongoose. If I see a problem, I want to figure out what it is, how it is, and what to do about it. So that was kind of how I started. And then I became ill. So I started having, well, let me back it up. I was diagnosed being deaf in my left ear
Ah.
when I was in elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
My last name was Smith. That meant I sat at the back of the class. My mother worked, and my mother said, I can't come up to that school and see about you every time there's something going on. You have to tell your teachers, you need to sit in the front, you need to
Mm-hmm.
position yourself to the left so
Yeah.
that you can hear the teacher. And she said, I'm not coming up there to do that for you. You have to do that for yourself. So I did. And then I started having these nosebleeds, spontaneous nosebleeds, right? Doctor said, you just have too much blood, which was, I thought, just a euphemism for saying he didn't know what it was causing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, so she told me to get a brown paper bag or some construction paper, fold it over tight, and go to the bathroom, put it in my upper lip, and get a cold compress of the paper towels, hold it on the back of my neck until the bleeding stopped. And you tell your teachers what's going on. And that's what I did.
Wow.
And so no one was surprised when I just got up and left the class. I was a good student though, because I enjoyed learning. And most of my teachers loved teaching me. Yeah, pretty
Oh.
cool. I had a great elementary school experience. I had a great educational experience
And
when
you
I think
worked
about
hard,
it.
right? Because your family
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
wealthy like mine. I had to pay for my own college.
Yeah.
And yeah, could you share that experience with us?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll tell you that. That's another little story with my mother. When I was in the 8th grade, my mother said to me, what are you going to do after you graduate high school? I said, I'm going to get married. She said, okay, your husband's in a car accident and he's a paraplegic. Now what are you going to do? I said, oh, I'm going to college.
Smart. Wow, your mom sounds amazing.
Oh my God. And she didn't graduate high school.
What a
And
little.
my dad didn't get their GEDs until we were all in college.
Mm,
She was an amazing woman, just an amazing woman. And she got me. She really got
mm-hmm.
me. When nobody else got me, she always got me. Yeah. She kept the power behind me. So I then had to figure out how I was going to do some secretarial training. This is way before computers, right? Now we're in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And there were all kinds of clerical jobs available. So I said, and we had tracking in our school system. So if you were on a college prep track, that's all you did. If you were on an occupational track, that's all you did. So, well, guess what? I had to do both because the only way I could work my way through school
Mm-hmm.
was by getting a job, and the clerical support could work. I mean, I started working the day after I turned 16 in a department store, and I ran a register and all of that stuff, but I started at $1.05 an hour. Doesn't that make me sound ancient?
Wow, it's amazing. I remember when my first car, my gallon of gas was $1.05 when I started driving, and I'm sure you have a better by the gallon price when you started driving, right?
25 cents.
Oh my goodness.
20, they should have gas wars.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it'd be 25 cents on one side, 30 cents on the other side of the
Yeah.
street.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I had to go talk with the principal, and he said, there's only one other person who's ever done this because the counselor said, you can't do it, you can't do it. So I talked to him. He said, there's only one other person that's ever done that. And I said, I will be the second. And so I was. And I had a very heavy, as you can imagine, curriculum because I'm doing both.
Wow.
But anyway, it worked out well because I was able to always generate additional income whenever I needed it because I was an excellent typist.
Wow.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So that's what I did. when I was getting into the last part of my undergrad, I would type papers for some of the master's degree students, right? So that because they had to have everything copied, and that back then you didn't have the copiers or the computers or none of that. So you used carbon paper, and you couldn't make too many errors on it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's what I did. That's what I
Well,
did. It was
thank
really great.
you for sharing a little bit of your background and, of
Yeah,
course, about your mom who was your mentor. And
yeah,
so it inspired you to, well, you've always kind of helped others, right?
absolutely.
And tell me about now your schooling and your training. So where did
Okay.
you attend school? And yeah, how
I
did
went to
this?
Central Michigan University.
Okay.
And I started out with a sociology and psychology major and minor in social work, only because they didn't allow a major in social work. I really enjoyed social work anyway. And I ran out of money in my last year. I needed $600. That's all
Mm-hmm.
that was stopping me. Of course, $600 back then was like 6,000 or 12,000 today,
Mm-hmm.
And I ran into one of my psych professors, and he looked at me and said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I'm not going to be able to finish." And he said, "Well, why not?" I said, "I don't have the money." He said, "I'm pretty sure you qualify for a scholarship."
Ah, wow.
Took me to his office and had me fill out the forms, and he said, "But you must have a major in psychology in order to get this scholarship."
Mm,
So I took 18 and 19 credit hours that last year.
wow.
Mhm. That's how I finished. And so because I've had that very unique, and it's every social work class they had, I had the opportunity to do a field placement in a community mental health center. And that was phenomenal for me because I was around some of the greatest clinicians you can absolutely imagine. And and that was wonderful for me. It really was. I learned how to do group therapy. I learned how to do individual therapy. I learned how to do case notes. I learned so much doing that work with those really, really great clinicians.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Yeah,
thank you. And then you became a life coach. Oh my, there's so much to you.
I know. Well, actually, I became an alcoholism therapist right after I graduated. Well, actually, I worked with drug addicts, and then I became an alcoholism therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to the college, and that's when I started really doing a lot of mentoring and coaching and, facilitating things for people. Yeah. And I've been doing
Aw.
that ever since.
Oh,
I
well, this is
know, it's
exciting.
wonderful. Yeah, it is so wonderful. I got my master's degree at Michigan State University, and
Mm-hmm.
that was I don't want to take up too much time with me, but that was a very unique experience. There was only one other college or university in the country that
Mm-hmm.
offered a program similar to us. We had 4 practicum placements, and back then you had one practicum placement for a counseling degree. We had 4.
Oh,
And
wow.
one of the things we had to do was work as a team to create a program that would solve a problem of that agency. And the agency director had to sign off that it was doable, and we had to also identify a funding source and that it
Oh,
was likely to be funded. And that was part of our degree requirements. So we had to do one as a group, and we had to do one as an individual with one of the other agencies. So our group was doing groups at Jackson State Prison.
yeah.
And we realized very quickly that a major issue for the recidivism was that the inmates were released from prison back into their neighborhoods, and they just did what they always did. So we decided that the best solution was to release them into a community-based organization, gradually re-enter them, and make sure
Wow.
they have housing and they get training. And that made a huge difference in the recidivism rate. That is the model that a lot of prisons use today.
Got it.
Yeah. That was
Well,
1975.
wow. And here we are. We're going to talk more about now the work that you're doing and how you can help our listeners. Let's remind everyone how we can contact you. DrAngelaMReeves.com. That's DrAngelaMReeves.com. And what is your contact number?
810-513-6204.
Perfect. And let's talk specifically about, why someone should work with you and why it's important, you think, to have a life coach. I think that's amazing. And we're talking about all your programs and consultants today that can help.
Sure, sure. So a lot of people have dreams, but they don't know how to make them reality.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know how to make them reality, the dreams never come true. So a lot of that is knowing really what you want to do,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also knowing how to do it. And you can look at other people to see how they did it,
Yeah.
right? And you can replicate that. But if you can't find somebody that you know that knows how to do it, what do you do? So as a life coach, we work with our clients to identify the way that they need to get to the place that they want to be.
Yep.
And this is all very self-directed. I think that most people know what they need to do, but they just need to have it pulled out.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah. 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 So we just give them the direction and the encouragement. So a lot of times I'm a cheerleader.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love
But once
it.
you know what to do, all it is about implementing, right?
No, yeah, it really is. But not everyone has that person to help them walk the walk and talk the talk. And that's
That's
you.
right. That's
With
right.
your own share of struggles. So the types of tools you're working with, you're doing mental health counseling. I know that's one.
Yeah.
Do you want to share specifically some other, people listening out there? And by the way, you're able to work with people throughout the country?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
That's the wonder of this thing called Zoom,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah.
It's amazing.
It is. It is
It
so
is.
wonderful. The
It is.
technology allows us to work with anybody literally in the world. Yeah,
Ah,
it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Okay, so yes, we do the life coaching, we do the mental health counseling, we do staff training, we do program evaluation. And I guess I should say that I have a unique background when it comes to programs, because not only have I managed grant-funded programs, all of which were designated as model programs by the funding authority, but I've also evaluated and oh, I can't even think of the word now, went in and evaluated to see whether they were doing what they were supposed to do.
mm-hmm.
Okay. So I worked with, at one point, I was the director of the single parent sex equity displaced homemakers programs. And I actually was elected the president of that
Wow.
association. So what I would do is, as the legislation changed, I would break it down into the pieces, right,
Mm-hmm.
that affected the work that we were doing to make sure that we were always compliant. And the
Yeah.
word I was looking for was audit. I've audited programs as well. I served on the Michigan Council of Vocational Education, and we would go in and look at colleges and post-secondary and high school programs that were using Perkins funded funds to fund their programs, occupational programs. Yeah. So,
Beautiful.
I mean, written them, managed them, audited
And
them.
there's a team of people working with you, right? It's not just you?
It's not just me. My daughter, Rachel Reeves is right there with me. And then we have other people that we can contract with if we need to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not just about one person doing everything. No, the world is no. We work to make sure that everyone gets their needs met. That's what we do. Our goal is to make sure that you are successful as you define success, And if you're successful, we're successful.
Interesting. Well, let's also ask, me ask you about, some of the work you're doing, because I'm on the website, I'm looking at some courses, you have downloadable resources. What are some of the most common things you're helping people with? What type of services? I know we talked about mental health counseling. What other things in particular?
So some of the downloadable resources that we have to do with goal setting and also with creating a plan. What are your goals for or your intentions for the year? And that was I just took that from the Buy from a Black Woman website. It was a free piece, and of course, anybody who wants anything can go ahead and get that from them. But I thought that was very powerful. And then I actually coupled that with affirmations because we are what we think.
Mm-hmm.
And if we think we can't, we can't. If we think we can, we can. So we really have to begin to reframe the way we think about ourselves. So that's what
Wow.
some of the resources are all about. Okay.
Got it. And there's some great,
Helping you move forward,
yeah.
right?
And there's some great testimonials on the site. If I could just share a few, what Reach says about AMR educational and program consultants. We have someone here says they improve social interaction and teamwork. It teaches you life lessons. Lessons that schools should be teaching us about how to succeed with easy tips and tricks on studying, reading, staying organized, and much more. That's from Amari. Then Brianna says, I think the biggest benefit I have from Reach is that I picked up on self-efficiency and
Efficacy.
efficacy. I'm sorry. Yes,
Efficacy,
efficacy.
yeah.
This allows me to believe in my own ability to control my emotions or actions. And that's from Brianna. And there's some other great people who talk about the work you do, saying you're amazing and you've given them tools to help create healthy relationships. Very active in checking in, making sure we're using the special tools you provide and helping each other understand communication in a positive way. So 10 out of 10. Also, someone else saying you're a godsend, you're warm, perceptive, wise, and witty, and you appreciate the attention to detail. Your wealth of knowledge and your support is amazing to navigate one of the most difficult transitions of my life so far. So it's always good to have positive, affirmations of the work you're doing. Did you want to share an example of a client or two that you helped?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, yeah, I'll share one that is kind of a common kind of thing. And this was a professional woman whose adult daughter had moved back home after graduating from college.
Yeah.
And very common issue. And they were butting heads, and it was awful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so one of the things that we talked about was the fact that we raise our children and we have to trust
Yeah.
that we raised them right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that's one part of it. But the other part of it is this is a grown woman. So now you have two grown women living in the house. This is no longer your child.
Yeah.
This is a grown woman. And the two of you can figure out how to manage all of the issues around the house and live very comfortably with each other and be very supportive of each other. She got it. That was a 3-week turnaround. Never seen anything like it. Fastest result I've ever seen. But she got it. I mean, she just embraced it and she was
Mm-hmm.
good.
Yeah.
She was good. Yeah. But I think it's one of those things that after your child is like 14 or 15, they don't want to hear anything from you. Now, do they need to? Absolutely. However, once you put that work into them, you've given them their values, you've helped them learn how to work, you've helped them learn how to do the right thing, your work is over.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some people think that their job is to parent their child until they die. Well, that's okay if that's what you believe, right?
Mm-hmm. But
That's not how I want to live. I want to have my life, right? I want my children to have their life. and I want to have my life. Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was a really big thing. One of the other common things that I run into is women who settle for someone who treats them very badly.
Mm-hmm.
And they think they have to have somebody, so anybody will do. Well, anybody won't do, right? I mean, how do you want to be treated?
Yeah.
What are those things that are important to you? What kind of relationship do you want to have? So I like to talk about non-negotiables. And those are just like three or four things that embody other things
Sure.
that can.
We got I think 3 minutes left.
Oh, okay. What do you want me to do now?
No. Go for it.
Oh, okay.
Talk about it. Yeah.
So non-negotiables are those things that are really, really important for that person to have. And this means, we're talking about friends, not just significant others, but friends, right? And just people that are in your inner circle. So one of my non-negotiables is a passport. If you want to be in my inner circle, you need to have a passport. Because I like to travel out of the country. I love culture. I like to be around culture. And that's what I love. And so I have friends and family that have the same value. So we travel together and it's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
It's wonderful. Yeah. So, what are those things that are really important to you that reflect your values? I also have asthma. So my number one non-negotiable is that you must have knowledge of asthma because I can get into trouble very, very quickly and die.
Uh-huh.
So the people, before I
Wow.
recognize I'm in trouble, the people who are around me need to know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my examples. The
Yeah.
things that are really critical about who you are and how you want to live. Yeah. Because shared
Non-negotiables. I like
experiences
it
and
that
shared
way.
values, right?
Yeah. I
Mhm.
like that terminology though. You're right. There's nothing wrong with that. It's important.
Mhm. But
Ah,
if you don't have anything to go by, then anybody goes, right?
true.
Anybody will work.
Oh, well, Dr. Angela M. Reeves, how can we reach out to you?
My website is DRANGELAMREEVES.com. And my email address is Angela M. Reeves 123@gmail.
Perfect. Thank
So
you so
reach out
much.
to me. I'd love to hear from you.
All right. Well,
My
pleasure.
passion is helping others.
Clearly. Thank you so much. Pleasure getting to know you today and looking forward to the next time we get to connect as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jill. It's been a pleasure.
And do something great today.
I shall.
Because
You
it
read
says it
that?
behind you. Yeah, I could see it. Guys are still good.
That's my message to me always.
I read that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Have a great
Thank
day.
you.
Bye-bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.